Hello, everyone. This is Thomas Pepin, NHL Talk. I'm Thomas Pepin, and let's talk about the NHL. So, this is the, well, I guess second part, but I'm not really labeling them as parts. But it's the second set of series previews that I'm doing. And in this case, it's going to be the Central Division matchups. So, Avalanche versus Kraken and Stars versus Wild. And just give me a moment to get things pulled up here. Sorry, stupid thing. Okay, so I think I can share now. So I do need to redo a couple things here with the spreadsheet. So yesterday, what I used, sorry, one sec. What I used was off by yesterday's games. So just for the sake of accuracy, I want to get the updated version of team stats. So just need to get the goal differential because I don't have that in this spreadsheet. And then likewise shot differential. So just a moment to do that. Oops. So, as always, everything, as you can tell, is done on the spot. No prep work except for the subject. So yeah, you get to see me, for one, do everything, and second, unfortunately, have to wait for me to do things sometimes. But that's how it goes, I guess. Okay, so that's that. Oh, and I wanted to freeze first column. Okay, so first thing I should start with is, sorry, one sec, I want to make sure I'm not forgetting something. Okay, so yeah, first thing I wanted, oh shoot, there was one other thing I needed, so just a sec to grab it. All right, now I should be ready. So yeah, what I was going to say is, as I mentioned yesterday, there's a couple things that reporters, analysts, and all that, they talk about in their previews, and they're actually, or the information in these cases is not useful, and I can say that because I've run the numbers to know this for certain. So a lot of analysts talk about series matchup. So from the season, let's say, for example, Avalanche versus Kraken, whoever, they report on what the season series was between the two. So Avalanche, I don't know what the actual results were, but let's say Avalanche 1-2, lost 1, or whatever. So a lot of people, when they're talking about series, they mention that, and I've previously run the data, and there's I can't remember the exact correlation, but there's essentially no correlation between series outcomes and regular season matchups. So if you hear somebody talking about that, they clearly don't know that and haven't done their research. So they're wrong. And basically, you can kind of disregard it because it's not going to tell you anything. It might be useful for reference. Again, since there's no correlation, really, it isn't. But maybe it could tell you something. So, but in any case, that's not relevant. The other one is last 10 games. So 10 games before the playoffs start, what their record was. And that, again, there's essentially no correlation as far as I recall. Well, I at least know that. I just can't remember the exact correlation, so I don't know the strength, but it's not strong. And so you can essentially disregard that. So the only data points that I know for certain are relevant, and reason being is my algorithm that I've created. Well, for one, from my betting, I've been correct in the past 4 years where I've made money, not necessarily predicted the exact winner, but where through all my bets I turn a sizable profit. So I know from the results as well as running the correlations, certain data points I know for sure are correlated with postseason success. And so those are the data points that I rely on and that you should rely on and that we're going to take a look at today. So some examples are goal differential. Well, shot differential, not really, but it kind of is relevant, and I'll show you how as we talk about things. Team defense, the only real good, useful data point is essentially save percentage. So at least compared to the rest. So save percentage is useful, relevant, and those are the primary data points to consider, or that I consider and I recommend that you consider. So that's what we're going to have a look at, and I guess let's get started. So the schedules have now been posted for the first few games, so you can see here on the screen just where it's highlighted. It's in the description of this video. The schedules for at least the first four games for every matchup have been released, reported. And so today I guess we'll start with let's start with Dallas, Minnesota, that matchup. So they start Monday. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday is their schedule. And yeah, we'll start taking a look at all the data points to consider here. So first we will rank order. Oh, I forgot about this thing. So we want 1 decimal point. Now it's good. We will rank order by differential. Oh, I wanted it descending. There we go. Okay, so Dallas, Minnesota. Where is Dallas? So Dallas actually ranks 4th for differential. I didn't know they were that high, so that's actually quite good for Dallas. And then Minnesota sits 15th. So Dallas has a season differential of 66 and Minnesota has 20. So there's a sizable gap there. At least from that data point, you could say that there should be a substantial gap in strength between the two teams, at least from the season. And this, so differential does have a strong correlation with playoff success, and so, or has at least a relevant correlation compared to other data points. And so, so at least in that regard, Dallas is a clear favorite from a differential or goal differential standpoint. Now, as I was mentioning, we also take a look at shot differential, and the reason is because, for example, in the span of a series, if there's a narrow gap in goal differential, what could happen is the team that has a higher shot differential could turn out winning just from the fact that in such a short series, the higher shot output could result in more goals, which could result in the winning of the series. So just thoughts, in my opinion, might not necessarily be perfectly accurate or correct, but that's what, or something that you can consider. So let's see where they sit. So Dallas is 13, Minnesota is 20. So Dallas has a shot differential of 2, and Minnesota has a negative differential of 0.2. So not only does Dallas better from a goal differential perspective, they're also better from a shot differential perspective. So they're, I guess you could expect them to not only outshoot the competition, but also outscore the competition. And so there's a sizable gap between the two. Now, shot differential, not so much, but goal differential, yes. And the combination of the two makes it look nearly certain, I would argue, that Dallas should be the better team. Now, the one equalizer that's relevant is goaltending. So what can happen is a goalie can steal a series just from being very strong, and it depends on the tandem that the teams have. So if they split games, they might not be their goaltending might not be as stable in the playoffs, which could hurt those other data points. And whereas if there's one goalie, then it kind of it changes what those data points indicate, which it could be that they're actually more stable and could perform better than expected. So with regards to Dallas leaned most heavily on Oettinger, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but he had a .919 save percentage in 62 games, which is quite good. I think league average, if I'm not mistaken, is .914 or .915. So he's above average. So strong goaltending out of Dallas. And then their backup, only 21 games. Still a chunk, obviously, but and he was a .915. So really, it's pretty stable goaltending in Dallas, even if, if Oettinger got injured, Wedgwood would be a decent, serviceable backup. So goaltending looks strong for Dallas, and then you just want to compare it also to Minnesota. And so in Minnesota, they've relied most heavily on Fleury. I thought it was actually the opposite, but it's the statistics that favor Gustafsson. So Fleury had a 908 save percentage, whereas Gustafsson had a 931 save percentage. Also, in terms of winning percentage, or from a winning percentage perspective, Gustafsson's better, 22-9, 22-9-7, whereas Fleury was 24-16-4. So I don't know if they've already announced it, but I would be unsure of who would be starting the playoffs. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So although Fleury's save percentage is lower from the regular season, he's quite reliable. He's won cups and stuff before, and he's been good in playoffs. I don't know his playoff stats offhand, and it's not all that critical at this moment. But in this case, between the two goalies, they're quite strong. And actually, with the 931 save percentage, that's better than the Dallas save percentages. So, in theory, Minnesota, if they had outstanding goaltending, could conceivably steal the series. Do I think that's going to happen? No. And the reason is because that goal differential was, it was, I think, almost 3 times the differential for Dallas versus Minnesota. So you would have to have, crazy goaltending to steal a series, and you would still need to perform offensively. So, and defensively. So, although Minnesota has a shot at stealing the series from their goaltending, it doesn't seem likely. If maybe the shot differential was in Minnesota's favor, you could argue that it's going to be closer in terms of outcomes, but it looks like it's very clearly in Dallas's favor. So on that note, we can put in the predictions for the series. So, So for Dallas, Minnesota, it looks like it should very clearly go in Dallas's favor. And that's both from my prediction as well as what the data says. So, so what I've been doing, from the previous stream, is I put my prediction outside of brackets and then the data in the brackets. So both we agree essentially that Dallas should win the series. So that's that series. Next up, we have Colorado against Seattle. And first, we'll take a look at differential. So just a sec to rank order them. So Colorado sits 8th in differential at 51 for the season. And Seattle is actually not that far behind at 37. So a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. But still, Colorado has the edge. It's not quite double. There's a bit of a gap, but it is pretty close. So it's a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. So in that regard, Colorado has the edge, but not by a crazy margin. And then shot differential. Where are they here? Man, I'm not seeing it. Where is Colorado? There it is. So Colorado's 9 and Seattle is 6. Wow. So 6 and 9. So a positive differential of 3.5 for Seattle and then 2.3 for Colorado. So this is an example actually where because they're reasonably close when it comes to goal differential, the shot differential is in Seattle's favor. So you could argue that it's not a crazy thought that Seattle could upset Colorado. And that's not something I was expecting to see. But, well, that's the data. So there you go. So it's not so clear of who's going to win. It still looks like Colorado, but it's not so much of a gap. It's only 1.2 shots per game difference in their differential. So it's not a lot, but it's something. So now this is where, like I mentioned previously, equalizer is goaltending. And in such a short series, it could be 4 games that a goalie could steal a series. So let's have a look at goaltending stats. Actually, I should have done this earlier, but so we'll start with Colorado. So Colorado's save percentage for Georgiev is .91. Georgiev? I don't know. Anyways, 919, and he played 62 games. So he played most of the games, and he's in all likelihood going to be starter for the entire series. And Francouz was 915, played 16 games. So Georgiev, 40 wins, 16 losses, 6 ties. Francouz 8-7-1. So it's very clear that Georgiev should play, and you would not really switch goalies, I would argue, under any circumstance. Maybe if you're down 3-0, maybe, or maybe in a game. But yeah, I would still say it's pretty clear who the starter is going to be, and you should probably lean on him for all the games. So so strong goaltending, above average save percentage. Colorado's quite strong in that regard. And then Seattle was basically evenly split between Jones and Grubauer. So yikes. So Jones 0.887 save percentage and Grubauer 0.895. That is quite bad. That's so, like I mentioned, I think league average is 914 or 915 save percentage. So way below average. And so, as I mentioned, it's the potentially an equalizer in a series. And in this case, looks really, really weak and unlikely for Seattle. So them, in terms of strategy, what I would do is, what's the difference in winning percentage? So you'd probably go with Jones, 27, 13, and 3 versus Grubauer, 17, 14, and 4. I'd probably start with Jones for 2 games, and based on the outcomes. So if they lose 2, you switch goalies. Lose 1, probably go to 3 with Jones. I only really go with Grubauer if Jones loses 2. So, and then of course you consider save percentage in the whole thing as well. But basically split in the playoffs too. But start with Jones is what I'd say. So even though his save percentage is worse, still go with him because he wins. And sometimes you just got to go based on who wins. So, anyways, so in this case, the equalizer does not go in Seattle's favor. So although they have the shot differential lead and they aren't crazy far behind on goal differential, the fact that there's just enough of a gap in goal differential for Colorado and shot differential is nearly the same, and then save percentage is clearly in Colorado's favor. It should go in Colorado's favor. It should be a clear win, but it's not so crazy to think that Seattle could upset Colorado based on the data. But still, more or less all the data points are in Colorado's favor. So Colorado should win. It should be a clear win too. So based on that, both my prediction and the data are in agreement. So it should be Colorado that wins the series. And let's just record that. And that is that. And so I guess I forget if I said already, but you can see in the description there. So Colorado, Seattle start on Tuesday. Now, the last thing, is it the last thing? Yeah, so the last thing is we take a look at the betting odds and consider if they're worthwhile to put a bet on. So, Colorado is at 7-1, which, like I said yesterday with Edmonton, it's not a horrible payout to put money on Colorado. Like I said as well, my target's kind of for like a favorite is kind of around 9 or 10-1. So it's not horrible, but it's not good. Boston 4-1 is, I would never put money on that, even if they're a heavy favorite, which to some people they are, but 4-1, no way. 7-1, you could maybe consider. So not horrible odds. So if you're going to put money on a team and you think highly of Colorado, it's not a crazy idea. Next would be Dallas at 17-1. It depends on if you think, so if you think Colorado can get through, then you have to consider if you think Dallas can beat Colorado. And I mean, it doesn't seem that crazy. We're getting ahead of ourselves here, but I would say, because I mean, they have to get through to the next round to even think of this as an idea. But yeah, Dallas 17-1. I mean, decent odds for them. It's probably around right. So for the lesser likelihood, I'd say it's around 26 or 29-1 is what I'd be targeting. 17-1. If you think Dallas is one of the favorites out of the West, I would say they're not bad, but not good. Like the odds makers, I have Edmonton, Colorado, and Vegas ahead of them. So in that regard, maybe you'd want it more towards like 21-1. So I don't really like the odds. Of course, this is just from these people, these odds makers, so William Hill. So 17-1 is not so good. 21-1, maybe you could consider putting it on them. So yeah, so not the best odds, not the worst odds. They're all right. Minnesota 21-1. Again, I'd have them as one of the lesser likelihoods, so 26, 29-1, maybe even more. So I don't like those odds. Still not far off, but not good enough for me to consider putting money on them, and I wouldn't anyways. But yeah, so if you really like Minnesota, maybe you could put money on them, but I don't think it's they're good odds right now. And last up is Seattle 29-1. That's where actually that's within range. Maybe I'd want slightly better, like the 34-1 that they have for Florida and the Islanders. But 29 is actually, within range, like Winnipeg, decent odds. So not bad if you think the Kraken could win the Cup, but seems like a bit of a stretch to me. So, but it's not bad odds to put your money on them if you like them. So, I think that's it then. Nothing else to discuss really. So, I guess maybe just to summarize for the West. So we've got Vegas, Edmonton, Colorado, Dallas should all get through. They're all the higher seeded teams. So it doesn't look like there's going to be any upsets. I don't predict any upsets in the West. It could happen for a couple of them, but it seems unlikely. So yeah, West looks pretty stable, although it's been very even throughout the season. When it comes to the matchups, it looks like there's clear favorites for all series. So don't predict any upsets. Data doesn't indicate any upsets are probably going to happen, but there's a couple of them are close enough. Like Winnipeg could win. Seems unlikely LA would win. Seattle could win. Minnesota could win. So, anyways, so that's it for the West. And then starting on Monday, we're going to take a look at the East. And in the case of Monday, we're doing the Monday games, and then Tuesday, we're doing the Tuesday games. So just because I don't do any work on Sundays, I can't do them in days ahead of the games, so they're going to have to be day of, but still before the games anyways. So Monday is... Give me a sec to pull that up. Monday, we're looking at Bruins, Panthers, Hurricanes, Islanders, and then Tuesday, Leafs, Lightning, Devils, Rangers. So that's the plan coming up. And so that's it for the West. And so if you like the stream, hit the like button, share with your friends, subscribe, turn on notifications. Otherwise, channel homepage has upcoming streams. I should have my streams at 3 p.m. Eastern when I do stream, but just take a look at the channel homepage when I have them scheduled, and I'll adjust the timing if there are any changes, like I'm going to be late or whatever. And any comments, leave them in the comments. Suggestions, same thing. And that's it. So we'll see you Monday, and looking forward to the playoffs starting. It's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be a really good set of series. A lot of evenly matched teams, I would argue. So it's going to be exciting. So until then, see you guys.